Alright, so pepsinogen, actually pepsinogen isn't quite a full enzyme yet. So it's actually a protein. So pepsinogen is actually what we call a or is it proenzyme? But it's not quite a few, or zymogen, yeah. So zymogen is something that's not quite a fully developed enzyme. So what happens with pepsinogen, again, chief cells secrete pepsinogen, parietal cells make hydrochloric acid. So pepsinogen reacts with hydrochloric acid, and then part of pepsinogen pops off, and then it has the part that remains is called pepsin. Now pepsinogen is inactive, pepsin is active. So again, pepsinogen needs to react with hydrochloric acid to become pepsin. Now pepsin is an active enzyme, and pepsin is a protease. So remember, what our three letters ends with, or when you see those magical three letters, ASE, that typically indicates an enzyme, right? So what's that part before that? What sounds like protein? Sounds like protein, right? So proteases digest proteins and they make it into smaller peptides or sometimes amino acids. So pepsinogen, very important, what we call a precursor. It's not quite the final form. It needs to go some processing. And then it becomes pepsin, which is an important enzyme in digesting proteins in the stomach. Then you have G cells, and this is I love this name because it tells you pretty much what is very important for. They secrete a hormone called gastrin. Now this is definitely one of the GI hormones I want you to know. So gastrin, again, has the gastro root word, so it refers to the stomach. So G cells make gastrin in the stomach. Now what does gastrin do? It does a whole bunch of things. So it is a peptide hormone. It is a hormone made by the stomach. And it increases the stomach motility. So basically it increases how much the stomach moves. So the stomach is moving when it digests, but this is going to make it move even more and faster. So what it does is also not only increases the churning and physical digestion caused by all the movement, it's also going to stimulate the production of acids and enzymes in the stomach. So it's going to increase both physical and chemical digestion in the stomach. So it's going to increase the overall rate of digestion, breaking apart food into smaller particles. And this is an interesting thing too. So what we have here is that the cephalic phase of gastric activity. So if you've ever if you are one thing is whenever I go to my apartment and then someone has something really delicious, like they had something to take out, might not be there, but I can tell when someone has rode in the elevator previously and they had pizza or fried chicken or something ono just before I got on the elevator. So this is when you kind of just think about food, or say you have a really good food, you're planning a fancy meal because you got your vaccinations and you can finally go to your favorite restaurant and you're kind of salivating and thinking about that food. Well, your stomach actually prepares ahead of time, and that's why it's called the cephalic phase. You're thinking about the food, but now your digestive system is getting ready for the food. So it's going to send signals to your parasympathetic nervous system and the vagus nerve, and it's going to increase the production of mucus, pepsinogen, hydrochloric acid, and also gastrin. So this is going to prepare your entire digestive tract for the meal it's anticipating to get. The food isn't even there yet. Then you have the gastric phase. Now you have the bolus and all the food entering your stomach. So what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have all of these mixing waves here in the stomach. So your stomach is doing its motility. It's contracting those multiple layers of muscle to kind of mash up the food and mix it up with the stomach acid. You're also going to keep cranking out all the enzymes and acids, and also gastrin is going to increase the amount of enzymes and acids and the mixing waves as well. And then finally at the intestinal phase, your stomach's done. It's done. It feel okay. I've done a good job of mixing up all the bolus with my acids. Now I can move it on to the diet. I think I've done a good job of breaking it up. I'm going to move it down to the intestines. So this is the intestinal phase. So again, cephalic, you're thinking about. Gastric phase, it's in your stomach. Intestinal phase, your stomach's done. Now it's moving it to the intestines. So gastric activity is regulated by gastrin. Again, it's going to increase physical and chemical digestion. And then baroreceptors, so they also detect the stretch and pressure. And why does that? Again, baro is a prefix referring to, or root word referring to pressure. So the more you fill up your stomach with, well, your stomach is going to think, okay, I have a lot of food, so I have to do more activity to digest that food. So again, it's like more stretch, more pressure, and this is what we call distension. So the more stretch you have in there, their stomach thinks it has more to digest, so it's going to increase its overall activity. Chemoreceptors. So neurons can detect increased pH as well. So again, if you thing is that if you have all that acid in your stomach, well, and nothing to dilute that acid or make it neutralize it, well, your stomach's like, okay, I don't really have anything in there. But if all of a sudden your stomach's pH starts getting more toward the basic side, it might be like, hey, maybe I've ingested something that's neutralizing this acid. Maybe I should try to process what's in there so that I can break it up and bring it back to a normal level. So gastric churning. So again, your stomach has all those three layers of muscle, and this is the best I could find. I mean, maybe there's better ones online, but yeah. So again, you notice that your stomach is actually not just contracting like your heart. It's actually, or actually, it's not. Yeah, not quite like your heart, and not like a typical muscle where it's contracting and relaxing. Different portions are contracting and relaxing at one point. So you're kind of stomach, or it's like, what was it? If you've ever made like one of those like recipes where you have to use like crushed up potato chips and or if you've made like the dried ramen, if you've grown up here and made that snack where you just take a dried ramen packet and then put it in a bag and smash it up, and you have to smash different areas to get it even, that's kind of what the stomach is doing. So what happens if the stomach finishes digestion?